All right, everybody, we are back this week for UFC 318, Holloway versus Poirier 3, or Poirier versus Holloway 3, live from the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans, Louisiana, with the retirement fight, the main event for the King of Diamonds, Dustin the Diamond Poirier, taking on a man who he already has 2 victories over, a man who is currently the BMF champion in Max Blessed Holloway. Holloway versus Poirier 3 to determine the most important 3 letters in the sport besides the UFC in the BMF. So without any further ado, let's get this started and step into the ring. Alright guys, we are back for UFC 318, Poirier versus Holloway 3. We're going to just kick the card off. Let's go. I'm actually kind of excited to talk about this card. I know a lot of people are crapping all over it. I know a lot of people aren't too excited with the way the card's laid out, but I guarantee you we're going to get some very exciting fights come Saturday night, especially in that main event. So let's start it off with the first fight up in the women's flyweight division. You have a battle between 2 former Contender Series alums in Crispy Carli Judice taking on Nicolle Caliari. So, you know, Judice versus Caliari, I think it's actually a very good fight to open up the card, and I think it's a very interesting matchup just stylistically. Caliari is known mainly as a grappler with good jiu-jitsu, good solid top pressure, good work off of her back. Obviously got that armbar submission on the Contender Series in the first round. Looking at this fight, Carli Judice came into her last fight against Yanisi Dubin, the girl who was on the Contender Series and got that huge KO as like a 7-1 underdog. Knocked out the LFA champion, I believe it was, in the first round. Shannon Clark with that big overhand right, put her to sleep, basically had her stiffed up, but then comes into the UFC against Carli Judice. Judice just lands a beautiful head kick and knocks her out. Caliari actually has a lot of experience in Muay Thai and kickboxing before she got into the UFC. She's decent on the feet, but I will say she does slow down. Both these girls have fought against Ernesta Costa, or Costa, however you want to say her last name. I'm actually a huge fan of Ernesta. I love Ernesta. I played her against Dione Barbosa by KO in the 2nd or 3rd round. I don't know how we didn't get that. She ended up winning on the scorecards, I believe, but she couldn't get the KO. Caliari kind of had a similar situation against Ernesta where she had a good first round, but later on in the fight, you know, Ernesta was just piecing her up, out-voluming her, picking her apart, and beating her up on the feet, and just eventually wearing her down enough to where she couldn't get the finish, but she did end up winning on the scorecards. With Carli Judice, Judice was on the Contender. I picked her against Ernesta. Ernesta just kind of outpaced her, outworked her, and won a close decision, but ended up winning a split decision. So if you're going off performances, you would say, well, Carli Judice probably wins this because she had the better performance against the common opponent in Ernesta Costa. But I think this is a tougher fight because I think if Carli gets taken down and Caliari is able to use her jiu-jitsu, get on top, use heavy top pressure. We don't really know how good Judice is off of her back. We don't know what she looks like really on the ground. She hasn't been taken down too many times, and in the UFC, it's basically been, you know, mostly a stand-up affair. She did get taken down a couple times by Fernandez, but she was able to work her way back up and kind of beat up her opponent. I would say Fernandez probably has the better jiu-jitsu and wrestling, but I kind of think that, you know, Caliari might be a little bit stronger than Gabriela Fernandez. And people are going to say, well, Fernandez got the submission win over Wang Kong and, you know, dropped her with the head kick, and that was great. That was a good performance, huge underdog in that fight. But I think Caliari is live to get a sub here. I would say it's probably going to come in the 2nd or 3rd round. I would think she probably ends up winning a scramble, getting to the top position, and maybe falls off the back with an armbar. Maybe she takes the back of Judice and lands some ground and pound and then eventually just locks up a sub. I think Caliari is for sure live with the grappling approach if she's able to kind of play it safe and wear out Carli Judice and then take her down and take her back and submit her. But for an overall pick in this fight, I'm going to take Carli Judice. I didn't like the cardio dynamic of Nicolle Caliari in the 2nd and 3rd round of that fight against Ernesta Costa. I thought Costa clearly could have gotten a KO there if she just pushed a little bit harder, but the takedowns in wrestling were still there. So I think the sub 2-3 is live for Nicolle. I think that she probably gets at least 2 takedowns in this fight. We just have to see how good Carli Judice's get-up game is. Can she work her way back up? Can she work up to a hip? Can she work up on the cage and get that underhook and circle off? We don't know these things. I think this fight is a very interesting one. If it stays primarily a kickboxing match, I think you'll see Caliari compete a lot better than people are expecting, but I do think Judice's volume and output will start to really pick her apart in the later stages of the fight. When it comes to an overall pick, I'm going to take Crispy Carli. I'm going to take Carli Judice to win. Give me a third-round TKO. I think she can really push that cardio and push that pace against Caliari. But like I said, I'm going to be completely 100% transparent with you guys. I have a play on Carli Judice KO 2-3 at plus 850, and I have a play on Nicolle Caliari sub 2-3 because I think those are the win conditions. I think it's a sub for Caliari if she's able to work the wrestling and slow down Judice, and I think if Judice stops the takedown, she probably TKOs her late in the fight anyway. I don't think the fight goes the distance, but I did take a stab on Nicolle Caliari sub 2-3 at plus 2100. I just think that those numbers are off. But from an overall pick perspective, I am going to take Carli Judice to be able to work her way back up to the feet and be able to slow down Caliari later on in the fight and get a third-round TKO. So give me Crispy Carli Judice, round 3 TKO in this fight. All right, up next, we got a battle in the middleweight division between Brunno Ferreira taking on Jackson McVey. McVey coming in 6-0. Brunno Ferreira, the Hulk, is 13-2, or Ferreira Ferreira, however you want to say his name. We're here to break down these fights. I think that Ferreira could easily knock out Jackson McVey, but I think that's a cop-out, man. So many people do this, and, you know, it's MMA. You really never know what's going to happen. And could Ferreira just walk forward, not respect McVey, get in his face, throw a big overhand, throw a big uppercut, throw a spinning back elbow like he did against Dustin Stoltzfus and knock him out? Yeah, he could. But I honestly think the length and reach of Jackson McVey is going to pay him a lot of dividends in this fight against Ferreira, who is going to just kind of close the distance and crash in. Crashing in against a taller opponent can really be the way to win. So that's why I think the KO is live for Ferreira, but I kind of like Jackson McVey here, especially at a plus 440. I like the way that he kind of stays on the outside. He fights out of that southpaw stance. He's always moving. I feel like he manages distance and range pretty well. He has a good 1-2. He has decent kicks to the body. And I think if he can just start to pick apart Ferreira, if he can start to pick apart Ferreira and stay on the outside, chop the low kicks, chop the body kick, throw the 1-2 down the middle, throw the check hook to get to the outside. When he gets up against the cage, just shell up, get to the body lock, get to the over-unders, and turn off the cage. You know, Ferreira is all about chaos, and people are going to say, well, he got that submission against Armen Petrosyan. That was a very good look. You know, to be able to sub Petrosyan, that's a solid win. You know, and Petrosyan is a guy who doesn't really have the best grappling. We've seen him get out-grappled plenty of times before, but we've never really seen Ferreira go to that avenue, at least in the UFC. He has good judo. He has good takedowns. We saw him use some hip throws and hip tosses against the likes of Phil Hawes, who he eventually went on to KO. And I think the KO is always going to be live in a Brunno Ferreira fight. But, I mean, look at the fight against Nursultan Ruziboev, where everybody was counting out Ruziboev. He caught the kick, hit him one time, hit him a couple more times on the ground, and knocked him out. And a lot of people are going to say, well, look at how good Nursultan Ruziboev is. I don't really think the jury is out yet on Ruziboev. I don't think you can really determine that guy is a top-level fighter yet. I mean, the fight with Stoltzfus was actually very close, and, like, he clearly won, but he made that fight closer than it needed to be, in my opinion. Ferreira was even getting touched up at certain points against Dustin Stoltzfus, and then eventually just got him against the cage, landed that big spinning elbow and knocked him out. But Ferreira likes to throw himself into the fire, and against a guy who's as tall, as long, as rangy, and as dangerous both on the feet and in the grappling, I really think Jackson McVey has a very solid chance to upset a lot of people's parlays and upset a lot of people who are just going to ride on Ferreira because of that UFC experience. Ferreira has a kill or be killed style, and most of the time it's kill for Ferreira, but I think this could be a time where it's him being killed by the longer, taller, rangier, more well-rounded Jackson McVey. You know, like I said, and I've said it a few times already, so you're probably getting sick of it. The KO is live. Does he probably come in and knock out Jackson McVey? Yeah, that's what everybody's expecting to happen. But I think McVey can hurt Ferreira on the way in. I think he can hurt him to the body with those body kicks. I think he can hurt him with knees to the body. And I think he could rock him. And then if Ferreira kind of tries to tie up and wrestle, his neck is going to be there to get submitted. And I'm going to take Jackson McVey by submission. I'm going to do it. Huge underdog, plus 440 on DraftKings. I'm taking the big underdog. I'm taking a shot on Jackson McVey. Like I said, could get KO'd. It's a big step up in competition. It's a much harder fight than his first fight was going to be in the UFC. But I like the style that this guy implements, and especially against a guy who's as reckless and wild as a Ferreira. I think he can walk into some big shots against a longer, taller fighter, and he might just rock him, force Ferreira to tie up, and then get choked. He's got a very good guillotine, good darces, good anacondas. I mean, the guy's very good from that front headlock, and I think that's what we're going to see. So I'm going to take Jackson McVey to win. I'm going to go with a first-round submission victory for Jackson McVey to improve to 7-0. I know it's not the most popular pick. I know a lot of people are going to be on Ferreira. I understand why. We've already said the reasons as to why. But give me Jackson McVey to use that long, tall frame to hurt Ferreira on the way in as he's crashing in and then choke him out. Jackson McVey via round 1 submission is going to be my pick. I'll say he locks up a Darce choke and chokes Ferreira unconscious. All right, next fight up is in the heavyweight division. You have Ryan Superman Spann taking on Lukas Brzeski. Yeah, I'm not going to spend time on this fight, guys. I have to take Ryan Spann. You know, I know Brzeski has a win over Walter Walker, and Walker's been heel hooking everybody in the first round. You know, he's not the clean monster. He's the heel hook monster at this point. And that's cool. And Ryan Spann is not a guy you want to put in a bunch of your parlays. He's not a very trustworthy person. But I don't think Brzeski is trustworthy either. And I'm going to take the guy who I've seen perform better against higher level opponents, which is Ryan Spann. And that's really what it comes down to. I think Spann can hurt the taller fighter in Brzeski. I think he can knock him out. I think he can rock him and potentially get a submission. I think it could be like a club and sub situation where he knocks him down, chokes him out, and that's all she wrote. I just think that there's a lot of ways for Ryan Spann to win, and I think his chin is very suspect, and, you know, Brzeski could land a big shot, you know, a 1-2 down the middle, a big hook, and knock out Ryan Spann. Spann lost his last fight via KO to Waldo Cortez at Costa. Costa just got a win over Sergey Spivak in a close fight. I don't think you can hold that really against Ryan Spann too much. But yeah, this fight is a tough one, but I'm not going to overanalyze and overthink it. I'm going to go with the guy who's performed at a better level, who's finished higher level opponents, and who's had a more successful UFC career, and that's Superman. So give me Ryan Superman Spann right along with the release of the new Superman movie. We're going to go with Superman. Give me Ryan Superman Spann to win round 2 submission over Lukas Brzeski. I think he rocks him with a big shot, grabs the guillotine, and chokes him out. Give me Ryan Spann round 2 guillotine choke submission off that club and sub. Again, like I said, not spending a lot of time. Give me Superman, baby. Next one. Next up, we got a battle in the light heavyweight division between Jimmy the Brute Crute taking on Marcin Prachnio. I think this will be a good fight, you know, and Prachnio can win if he can just stay at range and pick apart Jimmy Crute on the way in. You know, you got to stay on the outside. You got to pick him apart, land your jab, land your 1-2, land that 1-2 head kick, you know, slip and land a counter head kick off of one of the big punches of Jimmy Crute. And, you know, Prachnio does have a decision victory over Khalil Roundtree Jr., which looks very good at this point in his UFC career. But looking at this fight stylistically, I got to take Jimmy Crute. It's kind of similar to the last one. You know, who can win a decision? Jimmy Crute is live to win a decision. Who can finish the fight at a higher clip? I think that's Jimmy Crute. I think Crute has more power in his shots. I think Crute has the better grappling of the two. Probably could use some wrestling, get the takedowns, look to set up a submission. I would say probably a front choke would be the best option if he takes down Prachnio, and then as he works back up to the feet, he locks up that guillotine choke. I could easily see him pulling off a guillotine choke submission here against Marcin Prachnio. And I think for Prachnio to win, he's got to just stay patient, stay on the outside, pick apart Jimmy Crute as he comes in, land the cleaner counters, 1-2 head kick, front kicks to the body, chop the leg kicks, move around. The leg kicks did damage the leg of Jimmy Crute, not only in the Anthony Smith fight, but also in the Rodolfo Bellato fight. So I feel like the leg kicks are going to be a big area of Prachnio's game. And I think with a guy built with the size and stature of Jimmy Crute, he's going to really try to sit down on those low kicks and just counter with a big right hand. Sit down, right hand down the middle. Sit down, right hand, left hook. Slip, left hook, right hand. But you don't really want to throw the left hand first unless you time the jab and you can get in before their calf or their foot hits your calf. But boom, that 1-2 down the middle. Boom, a big right hand down the middle. The right hand, left hook. I think Prachnio is just going to get rocked all over the place in this fight. And he had an okay showing against Bukauskas, but people are saying because he rocked Bukauskas with that head kick on the inside, which was very clean, Dillashaw-esque with that little roll into the head kick in close range, that could catch a guy like Jimmy Crute off guard. I'm not sitting here and telling you that it can't happen, but at the end of the day, I just see Jimmy Crute as being the more well-rounded fighter, and I think he's the more dangerous fighter. And in this fight, which I don't expect to go the distance, I think the danger factor from Crute, the bigger shots, the takedowns, the potential submission threats, even if he doesn't get the submissions, he's going to be threatening with those front chokes. He's going to be landing the bigger, cleaner shots on the feet. And I think he's more durable than Prachnio at this point in his career as well, who got submitted against Bukauskas, who really doesn't submit anybody. So I'm going to take Jimmy Crute. Give me Jimmy the Brute Crute to win. I'm going to go with a second round guillotine choke submission. I could see a TKO here, but I think he hurts him and grabs the neck, kind of like the Ryan Spann fight we just talked about. But I'm going to say he rocks Marcin Prachnio as he comes in with a big combo, grabs his neck, and chokes him out. Give me Jimmy the Brute Crute, round 2 guillotine choke submission in this fight. All right, up next we got a battle in the welterweight division between Adam Fugitt and Islam the Ripper Dulatov, who makes his UFC debut on this card. Man, they love giving Adam Fugitt to all these UFC debutants to try to get him a big KO. Man, listen, I like the style of Fugitt. I always called him Adam Fugitt. Like, just go ahead, move forward, and fug it. That's the way I kind of see his style. He's a clean striker. He moves around, throws good combinations. His boxing is crisp and clean, but he just hasn't been able to put much of anything together, at least in terms of a UFC success level at the highest level, or long-term success, short-term success at the highest level, I guess you could say. With this fight, man, I think it's going to be much of the same, unfortunately, for Adam Fugitt. I think that Islam Dulatov is very reckless. He's wild. He comes forward. He throws big shots. But this guy is a killer. He's kill or be killed. And, nobody's killed him yet, at least coming into the UFC. Let's look at what his actual record is off the top of my head. I cannot tell you. Let's see. Islam Dulatov record. 11-1. So he has one loss via decision. That was all the way back in September of 2019 to Jonji Polokaj, and he is 11-3. So not a terrible loss. I just don't really know who that guy is. But since that loss early in his career, he's rattled off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 wins in a row. So he's 12-0 in his last 12 fights. Last loss coming in 2016 or 2019. Yeah, he's well-rounded. I mean, he's got 6 wins by KO, 5 wins by submission. This guy is a killer, and I think he's going to knock out Adam Fugitt. But I wouldn't be surprised if he rocked him and submitted him. This is another guy where he can KO you or he could submit you. I like the way he closes the distance. I think he leaves himself open, so the clean boxing of Adam Fugitt could cause some issues. He might be able to come over the top of his jab with a right hand. He might be able to land a good 1-2 and maybe stun Dulatov. But I just think Dulatov is going to be playing around, moving around on the outside. Maybe he gets hits once or twice, and that kind of wakes him up. And then he just comes in with a good jab, comes in with a 1-2. And even on the contender, I mean, he landed a huge elbow over the top that knocked out his opponent, and it was a nasty KO. It looked like an elbow, looked like a punch. It was kind of a mix between the two, but I believe it was just an elbow right over the top that put his opponent down and finished him off. I don't know if Dulatov's going to have, the best success in the UFC because of how reckless and wild he is and throwing himself into the fire. but he's definitely a fan favorite, and this fight is tailor-made and built to make him look good and get that highlight finish in this fight. So I think in the UFC debut, he's coming for a knockout, but we just looked on his record, and he's got just as many KOs as he does submissions. It's basically even, so the guy can knock you out on the feet, or he can hurt you and rock you and sub you up on the ground. But I think Dulatov's going to come in and just land a big bomb right on Adam Fugitt in the first round and KO him. He's going to probably play it safe. It won't be for like the first 2 minutes, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Like the first half of the round, I think he's going to play it a little bit safe. He's going to start to land his combos, start to land that calf kick off the jab, calf kick, 1-2 down the middle, and I think he's just going to land a bomb of a right hand on Adam Fugitt and put him down and get a KO in round 1. So give me the Ripper, give me Islam Dulatov to win round 1 knockout against Adam Fugitt. Unfortunate for Fugitt, but I think Dulatov's going to come in here, get that highlight reel finish in his debut, and look good doing it. I believe in Dulatov. I think he can have a lot of success in the UFC. We'll have to see what happens after this fight, but I think the UFC knows what they're doing. And can it blow up in their face? For sure it can, but I think it's going to be a good investment here with the Ripper. So give me the Ripper, Islam Dulatov to win round 1 knockout. Lands that right hand right on his chin and puts him down. All right, next fight up is a battle in the middleweight division between Ateba Gautier taking on Robert Valentin. Again, this is another fight where, Valentin had a good performance, so to speak, against Torres Finney, a guy who I will never, ever, ever, ever back in the UFC ever again. Isn't my kind of fighter, never hunts for a finish, never really tries to get a finish, always shooting takedowns, takedown, never really pushing for a finish. He's just not my style of fighter. In this fight, man, Gautier, we don't really know much about Gautier. He won on the Contender Series, dropped his opponent, finished him off with ground and pound, and Valentin competed on the Ultimate Fighter, ended up losing in the finale to Ryan Loder, who's a very solid grappler, good wrestler, but we just saw Loder get absolutely demolished on the feet in his last fight. I forgot who that was against, but he just got absolutely destroyed. And the minute he got hit, the fight was basically over. In this one, Gautier, he's poised. He moves forward. He's got very good power in his shots. He's good in the clinch. I mean, the knee he landed on Jose Medina, I believe it was, he hit him with a knee so hard. It looked like he got, like in those movies when they do like the gunshots and then it slows down and you get hit and you just see like the blowback, like that's what it looked like. He got hit. It looked like he got hit in the face with a assault rifle with that knee. Just boom, and that was it. And that was a guy who's historically durable. I don't necessarily think Valentin's durable. I think he probably has the better grappling. He's the better submission artist, the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. He has the better jiu-jitsu. But in this fight, realistically, I just think Ateba Gautier is going to kind of walk through him. I eventually just see him getting to Valentin. And yeah, I think Valentin could probably use his wrestling, but I don't know how much success he's going to have in taking down and holding down a guy like Ateba Gautier. I think Gautier is very strong. He's powerful. He has a good base. I don't really think the takedowns are going to be that easy. Do I think Valentin can win? Yeah, I mean, the guy's got a lot of power on the feet. He's got good ground and pound, decent power in his striking. He can knock you out and submit you. But I think this is just going to be a fight for Ateba Gautier to come in and look good. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. I think this is a fight where, Valentin might have some moments, but I think in that second round, I think Gautier is just going to come forward and just land a big uppercut on Valentin, hurt him, and then just finish him off with a barrage up against the fence. I think he's going to hurt him with a shot on a takedown attempt. Boom, rock him. You'll see Valentin back up and cover up, and that's where Gautier is going to go 1, 2, rip the body, knee to the body, elbow over the top, and he's going to hurt him against the fence, fold him, and finish him off. Now, with Valentin going the distance against Torres Finney, it shows he's durable, it shows he has good defense on the ground, but he's not really going to be looking for grappling in this fight, at least on the side of Ateba Gautier. I think he's going to be looking to come for the kill on the feet, and will it leave himself open to get hurt himself? Yeah, like that's clearly going to be obvious here, but I just think Gautier is going to have too much for Robert Valentin here. I think he's going to hurt him, get in the clinch against the fence, knees, elbows, uppercuts, and fold him against the cage and finish him off. So give me Ateba Gautier to win. I'm going to go Ateba Gautier round 2 TKO over Robert Valentin. But like I said, Valentin's a finisher, so this one could get interesting. I just don't think it does. All right, next fight up in the welterweight division, you have a battle between Francisco Prado taking on Nikolay Veretennikov. 12-6 for Veretennikov, 12-3 on the side of Francisco Prado. When we saw Veretennikov the last time out, he ended up losing via submission to Austin Vanderford. Got taken down, got controlled, got outworked on the ground, and then just got caught in a sub. Basically got dominated by Austin Vanderford. And then with Francisco Prado, last time out we saw him, I believe it was against Jake Matthews, where he ended up losing that fight by decision. It might have been a fight after that, though. I think it was, let's see, Francisco Prado. Let's check this out real quick. So he's 12-3. He lost his last two. So he lost to Daniel Zellhuber, where he just got kind of outworked, outstruck, outvolumed. It was just, Zellhuber was just kind of on a different level in that fight. And then against Jake Matthews, he also lost unanimous decision. But he's going up against two very high-level guys in both those fights. And when I look at a Nikolay Veretennikov, I think this is a get-right spot for Francisco Prado. Prado did have that knockout win over Otman Azaitar. He hurt him in the first round, dropped him, and then ended up getting a TKO. And I actually like Prado. I like his forward movement. I like his high guard. I like his boxing combinations. Decent low kicks, decent grappling as well. Veretennikov had a close fight in his UFC debut against Danny Barlow, left-handed god. And that was a guy I was pretty high on, but he kind of just didn't do much of anything against Veretennikov. The fight was very close, and arguably it could have gone to Veretennikov in that fight. That's how close it was. But they did give the decision to Danny Barlow. Saved a lot of parlays that night. With Francisco Prado, like I said, I like his forward pressure. I like his high guard. I like his shots to the body. I like his boxing. His boxing is going to be better than his overall kickboxing, but he will throw low kicks and he will throw kicks to your body. I think if anybody's going to resort to the wrestling and grappling, I think it's going to be Veretennikov. I think he's going to look to land a big bomb that might hurt Prado and force him to respect him. I think Prado's going to be on that forward foot, on the front foot, on the pressure, moving forward, trying to back up Veretennikov, make him uncomfortable, shoot takedowns he doesn't want to shoot, work the body with jabs and liver shots, throw that left hook to the body, right uppercut to the body, start to throw that front kick if he's at the correct range, use that jab 1-2 down the middle, and just start to walk him down and kind of bully Veretennikov. I think Veretennikov, if he uses the wrestling, he can have a lot of success, but I don't really think it's going to be too easy to hold down Prado and control him for long enough to be able to bank 2 rounds in this fight. I think it's going to come down to the first round is going to be close, but then when we get into the second, when we get into the third round, that's where I think Prado's going to take over. I think that forward pressure, Veretennikov fighting off the back foot, that's where it's going to really, I think, take precedence, and I think that forward pressure is going to start to get to Veretennikov more and more as the fight carries on. And when we get past that 7-minute mark, 7.5 minutes, 8 minutes, that's where I think Prado's going to start to really put it on him, land those 1-2s, rip those body shots, start to push him back against the fence, work him in the clinch, and I think eventually he's just going to get a TKO in this fight. I like Prado to win. I'm going to say via a late second round TKO. I think he's going to hurt him, push him back. The pressure is going to get to him, and he's just going to unload with a big combination close to the fence and hurt him and get on top of him and finish him off with ground and pound. So my pick is going to be Francisco Prado to use that pressure, use that forward movement, and just back up Veretennikov and make him uncomfortable until he finds a finish. Late second round TKO for Prado. I like him here, and I think he'll get back on the right track with this fight. All right, next fight up is going to be a battle in the middleweight division between Marvin Vettori, the Italian Dream, taking on Brendan All-In Allen. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. This fight reeks of a split decision to me. I think this fight goes the distance. I don't really see a finish taking place in this fight. If it was 5 rounds, I think maybe Vettori could push the pace and start to slow down Brendan Allen, work those body shots, work that straight left hand to the body, the left hand to the head, the check right hook, and maybe be able to slow down Allen in the championship rounds. But with it being a 3-round fight, I really just think this is going to be a closely contested fight for 15 minutes. I don't see Brendan Allen having a lot of success getting takedowns against Marvin Vettori. I think Vettori could probably outstrike Brendan Allen in terms of volume, but I think the bigger strikes and the bigger shots are probably going to be coming from Brendan Allen. I think he's going to have good kicks to the body, a good 1-2, I think the body kicks and the jab is going to be one of the biggest, or two of the biggest weapons that he's going to be using in this fight. I think he's going to be circling, trying to get to the outside of the lead foot, left hook, right body kick, 1-2 down the middle, circle off. But I do think the pressure and the volume of Marvin Vettori could cause a lot of issues for Allen later in the fight. Like in that third round, I would venture to say that I think the fighter who's going to be pushing the pace more in the third round is probably going to be Marvin Vettori. He's always had a good gas tank. He's a guy that isn't easy to rock, isn't easy to hurt, and isn't easy to get out of there. Nobody ever has before. Jared Cannonier came very close, but they were able to go the distance. I don't think Brendan Allen's the guy who's going to knock him out, and I don't think he's going to be submitting Marvin Vettori either, because Vettori has really good wrestling, good submission attempts of his own, and good jiu-jitsu defense, to where I don't see a submission coming from either side unless Vettori just slows down Brendan Allen so much in that third round with the pressure on the forward foot, the jabs, the straight left hands, and just starts to wear on him, and maybe he hurts him, takes him down, beats him up, and then locks up a choke when Allen's already exhausted. But I think since it's a 3-rounder, that would be more of a scenario for a 5-round fight than I think a 3-round fight. I think we're going to see a primarily a kickboxing match between these two, and I think it's going to be a close fight. Like, I think this reeks of a split decision, like I believe I already mentioned in the beginning of this breakdown. I think it's going to be close. I think there's going to be ebbs and flows. I think the volume is probably going to be on the side of Vettori. I think the bigger shots are probably going to be on the side of Allen. Allen's got a good left hook, the right body kick, the 1-2, and he fought a very strong and powerful southpaw multiple times in his career. Look at Chris Curtis. Look at the likes of Punahele Soriano. These are both examples of southpaws that he's fought where he's been able to develop good game plans and outwork his opponent. Now, it was more a grappling-based outworking in the fight against Chris Curtis when they rematched, but, you know, I think when it comes to Punahele, he was fighting a guy who could knock him out, who had a lot of power, who did crack him, but he just stayed on the game plan. Jab, left hook, right body kick, cross, right body kick, and just continued to attack the body and continued to just rip those body shots over and over, especially when it came to his kicking game. I think there's going to be a similar scenario here, but I will say I think Brendan Allen has gotten more comfortable in a firefight. I think Brendan Allen has become more comfortable in overcoming that adversity at this point in his career, and that's one of the things I feel like I like the most and why I'm going to be taking the favorite in Brendan Allen. I see a lot of people on the underdog, on Vettori. He's durable. He can't be knocked out. He doesn't get knocked out. You know, he doesn't even get rocked. I don't really think that's going to matter here. I just think the cleaner fighter over 15 minutes is going to be Brendan Allen, and I don't see a ton of wrestling, so I think it's going to be a 15-minute kickboxing match. I think Vettori will land that left hand. I think Vettori's going to get on the angles and start to land some good shots of his own, but at the end of the day, I just think the guy who's going to land more meaningful strikes, who's going to be the cleaner, more technical striker over 15 minutes is going to be Brendan All-In Allen. Now, there is a lot of bad blood, so people may be expecting a finish. If there is a finish, which I don't expect it to be, I would say maybe a round 3 sub for Vettori. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to go to a decision, and I think it's going to be a close fight. So playing the fight to end by split decision might actually be a good idea here. It's like plus 300 for the fight to end by split. I could definitely see that happening. I think there's like an 80% chance this fight ends by split decision. Probably a 90% chance the fight goes the distance. But I'm going to take Brendan Allen. I'm going to take Brendan Allen 29-28 split decision. I think he'll do enough to win 2 out of the 3 rounds. And if the fight is close, the judges do tend to lean towards Allen in close fights. So give me Brendan Allen 29-28 split decision. All right, up next, we got a battle in the bantamweight division between Kai Matrix Phillips taking on Vinicius Loke Dog Oliveira. Guys, this is one of the best fights on the card, and this is a fight that I really could see going either way. There's a case for you to make that Kyler Phillips is going to be the fighter who's more light on his feet. He's lighter on his feet. He's going to be dancing around the octagon, and he's going to be throwing extremely quick and explosive strikes. The speed and explosiveness of Kyler Phillips is how he's going to win this fight, and it's probably not going to be in the boxing exchanges. I think if the boxing exchanges take place for the majority of this fight, I would say it's Oliveira landing those awkward angle punches that are going to sneak through the guard of Kyler Phillips. But with head kicks, body kicks, spinning kicks to the body, spinning kicks to the head, that's where I think Kyler Phillips might be able to get like a crazy knockout. I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting pressured, he's getting pushed back, and then all of a sudden he throws a cross head kick and knocks out Vinicius Oliveira. I wouldn't be surprised if he's moving in and out, popping the jab, Oliveira comes in, boom, wheel kick to the head. Like those crazy strikes are how I think Kyler Phillips is going to win this matchup. I think every round is going to be close, but I think after that round and a half, I think the same exact pressure that got to Said Nurmagomedov is going to get to Kyler Phillips, and we've seen it plenty times before. When he's in control, when he's in the driver's seat, he tends to be able to coast and be able to keep the fight at his pace, be able to keep the fight with his style of fight that he wants. I don't think Oliveira is going to allow him to keep the fight where he wants to keep it. I think Oliveira is going to be walking forward. He's going to be cutting him off. It's going to be hard for him to cut him off. Like I think Kyler Phillips, at a pretty high clip, probably wins the first round of this fight. I'm going to say there's a 70% chance that Kyler Phillips wins the first round. If he loses the first round, I think there's like an 85% chance that Oliveira is going to win the fight regardless. But I think there's a huge chance that Kyler Phillips just uses the jab, uses the angles, uses the footwork, and just starts picking apart Oliveira on the outside. But after we get into that second round, that's where that forward pressure, that's where that side stance and those awkward angles and those looping left and right hooks, the feints to the big uppercuts and the overhands and the front kicks to the body, that's where it's all going to start going downhill for a guy like Kyler Phillips. Because even when he's in control, even when he's moving forward, he's still moving a lot. There's a lot of lateral movement, a lot of in and out movement, a lot of angles. He's cutting angles, throwing his combinations, and it looks very good. But once your opponent starts to get the timing and starts to push you back and starts to get you on that back foot, moving on the back foot is 100 times harder than moving on the front foot. It's more stressful. It taxes your gas tank more, and Oliveira is going to be the guy that's going to push you back and start cutting you off with those big hooks, start cutting you off with leg kicks, start pushing you against the fence and ripping big shots. And we saw pressure get to Kyler Phillips in his fight with Rob Font. It was mainly due to the jab and the 1-2 of Font and pushing him back, and he did get a couple takedowns in there, I think. I think Font got at least one takedown, but I think this fight is going to be close early, but I think it's going to be Oliveira who pulls away in the second and third with that forward pressure and that awkward angles, and the awkward angles of his strikes. I think he's going to pull away, and I think he's going to have a really big third round. I think there's a chance that he finishes him in the third round. Now, like I said, I think that there's that chance that Kyler Phillips lands a big head kick and knocks out Oliveira. There's always that chance with a guy who's as fleet-footed and as explosive as a guy like Phillips. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Oliveira is going to be too smart. He's too good at seeing shots coming and rolling and slipping off the center. So give me Oliveira. I'm going to take him 29-28 unanimous decision. But it wouldn't shock me if it's a split decision. I think the best way to play this fight, if we're just going off what's the value, I would say I saw Oliveira round 3 or decision on FanDuel plus 140. I think that's the best value you're going to get on Oliveira to win in round 3, which is probably going to be his strongest round in the way the fight plays out, or to win by decision, where if he has a strong third round, he just needs one of the first 2. So give me Vinicius Dog Oliveira. I'm going to take him to win 29-28 unanimous decision. All right, next fight up is in the lightweight division. You have a banger between Michael the Menace Johnson coming off that huge, brutal KO victory over Otman Azaitar, taking on Daniel Zellhuber, who is, on the up and up and a huge prospect for the UFC, at least at this point. I think that this fight's going to be a war. I think somebody's going to sleep. I think it's going to end by KO. And it could really be either guy here. I think if it's in the first round and there's a knockout, it's from Michael Johnson. Johnson is a guy who, you look at his record and he doesn't have the greatest record. He probably has one of the worst records in terms of number value in the UFC. But the guys that he's fought could trump a bunch of people's records. I mean, he fought the likes of Khabib, Dustin Poirier, Tony Ferguson, which at the time was a huge win. I don't know. I'm not feeling the greatest today, so But either way, Michael Johnson has fought the best of the best. He's fought the who's who. And, he's had a few wins. He basically was, a minute away from beating Josh Emmett and winning that fight at featherweight, and then he got knocked out with that right hand. I think early, the explosiveness and the speed of Michael Johnson, which is still there, could give Zellhuber some problems. I think if it's a round 1 or round 2 KO, I think it's Michael Johnson, because I think he's going to walk forward. He's going to throw that right hook left hand, that 1-2 down the middle, and he's going to have that base ready to go in case he gets a takedown shot on him. But even though he's got that speed, even though he's got that explosivity, he still has those durability issues. And that's the biggest thing with these veterans, right? Like, they look really good and they have the speed and they have the power. And Michael Johnson still has all of that. But if you touch his chin, you can put him to sleep. And a lot of people might be looking at the submission for Zellhuber because he did get a sub against Christos Giagos. I don't really think there's going to be a ton of grappling here. I think it's mainly going to play out on the feet. And I think if there's a finish, I would expect it to be a KO from either Johnson or Zellhuber. I think once we get to like the 8.5, 9 minute mark of the fight, it's going to slowly start to creep over towards the Zellhuber side. He's younger. I wouldn't say he's hungrier, but he's taken less damage and he's been in less wars. So I think he's going to be able to push harder in the later stages of the fight than a Michael Johnson. Like I said, if Johnson wins, I think he could win a decision. But I think just the style of these two fighters, it's going to be the speed and boxing combinations of Michael Johnson with the power, and it's going to be the length, the reach, and the kicking game, and the long combinations of Zellhuber in the volume that's going to start to break Michael Johnson towards the second half of the fight. And that's really what I'm going to go with. I like Johnson. I wouldn't mind seeing him come in here and get a KO, but I got to take Daniel Zellhuber here. I think he's just going to have more left in the tank. I think he's going to be able to slow down Michael Johnson. He's going to be able to keep his foot on the gas. He's going to be able to put those volume combinations, 3, 4, 5, 6 punches, rip the body, come back up top. And that's going to start to suck the wind out of Michael Johnson. That's going to start to slow him down. And I think at the end of the second round, I think that's where Zellhuber's going to put it on Johnson. He's going to hurt him. He's going to get him against the fence. He's going to rip the body, come over the top. I think he's going to land an elbow in the clinch that drops Michael Johnson, puts him down, and gets him a second round TKO victory. So give me Daniel Zellhuber. I like the young gun. I like the young buck. I'm going to take Daniel Zellhuber to win. Give me round 2 TKO over Michael the Menace Johnson. All right, next up, you got a battle in the featherweight division between Dan 50K Ige taking on Patricio Pitbull. I think this fight's going to be primarily a striking matchup. If we're talking about the wrestling and the takedowns, I think it would be Patricio who would look for more takedowns in this fight over the 15 minutes. I think if Ige gets takedowns, he's going to try to get takedowns at the end of close rounds to seal up the win for that round. Like if it's a purely kickboxing or boxing match and it's close and it could go either way, in the last 10 seconds, that's when I think Ige probably fakes a shot and then shoots a takedown. But I don't see primarily heavy grappling unless it's from Pitbull, who just is able to get the takedowns and control Ige from the top, like we saw at a certain point against Yair Rodriguez. Now, I picked Pitbull against Yair, and, thinking about it stylistically, that was a much, much harder matchup for him than a guy like Ige, just based on styles. Now he's got a guy who's close to his same height, 5'6", 5'7". He is going to be at a reach disadvantage, so he's going to be facing that 4-inch reach disadvantage. But with the way both guys fight, I think they're both going to be there to trade in the pocket. They're both going to be there to hit each other and get hit. And they both have a lot of power. A lot of people are going to come into this fight and say Ige has so much more power than Pitbull, and Ige is going to run through Pitbull. I could see Ige knocking out Patricio 100%. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think it's going to be a close fight for 15 minutes where both guys are going back and forth. Both guys land big shots. I think both guys get hurt at a certain point, but they're able to recover. I think Pitbull probably gets more takedowns, but Ige could get takedowns at the end of the round. I think the cardio is going to be pretty even on both sides. I don't really see in a 3-rounder one guy gassing out super heavy in the third round, unless it's Pitbull, because he gets a bunch of takedowns in the first 2 rounds and controls Ige on the mat, and, it just sucks his gas tank. And then Ige comes out in the third, and he's refreshed and ready to go because he was just, on his back on the bottom for the majority of the first 2. But I don't really see that happening either. I think it's mainly a boxing match between 2 guys who like to throw their hands. I think we'll see the calf kick from Pitbull come out a lot. I think we'll see Ige use the leg kicks to close the distance and cut off Pitbull's lateral movement with the left hook or the right hook as he lands that leg kick, right hook, left hook, leg kick, straight right, left hook, just to cut him off. I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth in this fight. I don't really see one person taking a heavy advantage, and people are going to say, well, Pitbull's old and he looked like crap against Yair. Like I said, that was one of the toughest matchups you could have given Pitbull in his debut, and he almost pulled off an armbar in the third round. He landed some big shots of his own. He was just outgunned because the guy threw spinning back kicks and head kicks and body kicks and used his length and reach so much more than many people would if he was fighting them in the UFC. There's not a lot of people in that division that are going to use their length and reach like that, especially with the explosivity of the kicking game of Yair Rodriguez. This is a much more even fight. This is a much closer fight on paper, and it's a much more favorable fight, I would say, for both men. Ige has one-hitter-quitter power, but we don't really see him knock people out with one shot. He's only really done that maybe once or twice in his career, once against Andre Fili and another time against Gavin Tucker. Other than that, it's kind of like attritional finishes where he'll hurt you, start ripping to the body, ripping up top, and eventually get you out of there like we saw against Sean Woodson. But in this one, I'm going to take Pitbull to win by a split decision. I just think this fight's going to be close. I think it's going to be back and forth, and I just feel like Pitbull might be able to edge it out. He might just land more volume than Ige. He might be able to get some takedowns that seal up the rounds, and I think we're going to see Pitbull use the grappling and make it competitive on the feet enough to where it's going to be a close fight, but he'll edge out a split decision. So give me Patricio Pitbull. I'm going to take Pitbull 29-28 split decision. I think it goes to the scorecards. I think they edge it out towards Pitbull's way, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ige knocked him out. I wouldn't be surprised if Ige got the split decision. I think this fight has a split decision written all over it. A lot of people are going to expect, finish, kill or be killed. If there's a knockout, I think it's Ige. If there's a submission, I think it's Pitbull, but I think if there's a finish in this fight, it's probably going to be from Dan Ige. But like I said, Pitbull has a lot of power and is still pretty fast, even though he's been in so many wars. But at the end of the day, I have to make a pick, so my pick is going to be the underdog, Patricio Pitbull, to win 29-28 split decision. All right, next fight up is the featured bout of the evening in the welterweight division. You have a battle between Kevin Trailblazer Holland and Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez. I think if this stays primarily a boxing match, that Rodriguez has a chance. I'm not going to sit here and say he's got no chance, he's going to get destroyed. I think he has a chance. We saw him knock out Ponzinibbio. I don't think he's knocking out Kevin Holland. We've seen him get hurt before, but the last time we really saw him get hurt was technically against Ian Gary. And I mean, look at how good he's looked in recent fights, at least the last few fights in his UFC career. Still yet to taste defeat aside from Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think if they primarily box, which could happen because Kevin Holland, he just has that lack of fight IQ at most points where he'll fight the opponent in their strengths and not fight to his strengths and make it a lot closer than it needs to be. But even if this stays a boxing match, I still think Holland will use his length and the jab and the 1-2 and his reach to hurt Daniel Rodriguez. I think what this comes down to is when does Kevin Holland finish D-Rod? Because I think he does, and I think he submits him. I think that it's going to be close for maybe like the first round. When we get into round 2, I think Kevin Holland's going to land a big shot on D-Rod. He's going to smash him. Boom. Hit him with a big shot. Rock him. I think they're going to get in close, and then I think Kevin Holland's going to snap him down and snatch up his neck, and I think he's going to submit him with a Darce or an Anaconda. Neil Magny caught D-Rod with a Darce choke at the last stages of their fight when it was about to go to decision. So if Neil Magny can catch you, he's another long, tall, lanky guy. Kevin Holland can catch you, and Holland has much better jiu-jitsu than Neil Magny. So I think he's going to hurt him at a certain point on the feet. I think it'll be close for maybe the first round, and then I think Holland's going to use that long 1-2. He's going to crack him with a shot. D-Rod's going to get rocked. He's going to get in close. He's going to try to wrestle, and I think Holland's going to snatch up that Darce choke, drag him to the ground, and get a submission. So I'm going to take a round 2 Darce choke submission for Kevin Trailblazer Holland over Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez. I just think that the jiu-jitsu is going to be a huge advantage, and when he rocks D-Rod, I think he's going to tie up and get in close, and that's where Kevin Holland can snap him down and grab his neck and submit him, and I think that's what's going to happen. So give me Kevin Holland, round 2 Darce choke submission. I think he subs up Daniel Rodriguez, and I think he does it in round 2. All right, now we're at the co-main event of the evening in the UFC's middleweight division. You have a battle between Paulo the Eraser Costa taking on Roman Kopylov. Yeah, I think this is primarily going to be a kickboxing match. That's not going to take a rocket scientist to figure it out. If anybody shoots takedowns, I think it'll be Kopylov. Probably towards the end of the rounds, at the end of round 1, end of round 2, end of round 3. He might shoot takedowns to make it closer. But yeah, I think that Costa is a good kickboxer. He throws good head kicks. He's got a great right head kick. We saw him hit Robert Whittaker with that spinning wheel kick to the head. Almost knock him out at the end of round 1. And then kind of just fall off in round 2. And Whittaker was able to get on his bike and just counter-strike him the entire time as he's walking forward. I do think that Kopylov has problems with pressure when you back him up, when you pressure him. We saw it against Chris Curtis. We saw it in the fight with Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. But Hernandez is a different style of pressure fighter than Paulo Costa because he's pressuring with striking and wrestling and chain wrestling and tying everything together. Costa's just pressuring with striking, which I think is a little bit more comfortable for Kopylov. So I think it'll be a little bit easier than the pressure and style of Anthony Hernandez. But in this fight, man, I think it's going to be a kickboxing match, and I think the cleaner kickboxer over 15 minutes is probably going to be Roman Kopylov. I mean, how can you trust Paulo Costa at this point? I picked him against Whittaker. I picked Rockhold against Paulo because I thought he was going to wrestle, and he did, and then it just didn't work out. But, I've picked Costa so many times, and he just doesn't fight to the level I think he can fight at. He says, I'm back in shape, I'm ready to go. I just don't trust the guy anymore. I think he's 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door, and I think Kopylov is the cleaner striker. I think he's faster than Paulo, and I think it's just a volume thing where I feel like he has more volume and output, or not that he so much has more volume and output, but he picks his shots a little bit better than Paulo. Paulo tends to wait and wind up on big hooks and wind up on big kicks. And yeah, he'll land a couple of them, but usually the opponent's slick enough to get out of the way. And with this one, I think Kopylov is going to just start to pepper up Paulo Costa like towards the end of the first round. I think that body kick, the left body kick's going to be there. The 1-2 down the middle. I think he's going to start to rip the leg kicks and slow down Costa. Costa's going to come back with big shots, big hooks, big uppercuts, ripping the body. I think the body shots for both guys are very important. I think the body kick, the rear body kick for Kopylov is a very important weapon against Costa, so he could slow him down and then work up top with a head kick. I think for Costa, the body shots in close and getting on the pressure and pushing Roman Kopylov back, getting him on the back foot, pushing him against the fence. I think that's all where Costa wants it to be, right? Get in his face, push him back, get him against the cage, cut him off with left hooks, right uppercuts to the body, left and right body shots, and try to make it nasty, try to make it dirty, try to make it uncomfortable. Kopylov does not like to get pressured, and, early Paulo Costa would be heavy on the pressure, back up, push him back, pressure, pressure, pressure. I just don't trust Paulo Costa to do that anymore. He stands and waits and waits and waits, and he said, I'm not waiting anymore. I'm going to come in. I'm going to fight. He might get too reckless, and he might get caught on the way in. I'm going to take Kopylov to win with a late knockout. I think he's going to hurt him to the body or potentially hurt him up top with a head kick. And I'm going to say he actually head kicks him, just like he did Chris Curtis, and knocks him out. So I'm going to take Roman Kopylov to just be the cleaner striker. Better shot selection, faster with his output, the speed and the power. I think the power is obviously on the Costa side, but the speed and the precision of Kopylov's striking, I think, is going to take over late in this fight. And I think he's going to head kick Costa and knock him out in the third round. Give me Roman Kopylov to win round 3 head kick knockout. If it's not a head kick, I would not be surprised if he folded him with a body shot. Kind of similar to the Punahele Soriano. Like, I know Costa's ripped, he's in shape, he's ready to go, but I wouldn't be surprised if those body kicks just eventually got to him and folded him in the third round. So give me Roman Kopylov to win. I'm going to take Kopylov round 3 TKO over Paulo Costa. Right, and now we're at the main event of the evening for the BMF Championship. You have the trilogy bout between Max Blessed Holloway and Dustin the Diamond Poirier. This is going to be a fight where I think either guy can win. You know, it's pretty clear that I think Holloway's going to have the volume and output advantage, while I think Poirier's going to have the power advantage. And that's really what it comes down to. It's going to be the power and the boxing of Dustin Poirier, the check right hook, the straight left hand, the rear uppercut to the lead hook, trying to expose and break down the high guard of Max Holloway. And it's going to be Holloway using straight punches, jabs, 1-2s, the cross to the body, the jab, hook, cross, and just trying to put enough volume on Poirier to get him backed up, get him tired, and get him kind of shelling up so that Holloway can unload his combinations. I think when it comes to the grappling, I think it's not going to be seen much in this fight at all. The only way I see much of any grappling taking place is if somebody gets rocked on the feet and shoots a takedown to try to recover, and maybe, like, you could see Poirier rock Holloway with a check right hook, and then Holloway shoots a takedown and gets caught in a guillotine, or Holloway's beating him up and Poirier shoots a bad shot and gets caught in a darce or an anaconda. Like, I think it would be more of a shooting a takedown off of being hurt and then potentially getting yourself caught up in a submission. And both of these guys have good enough front chokes to the point where I don't really think that's going to be a thing that we see here unless Poirier jumps the guillotine. And I mean, Poirier's retirement fight, well, poetic justice for him to jump the guillotine and get it in his retirement fight in the UFC. Yeah, this is a fight where every fight's going to be different, you know, and Poirier's up 2-0. First fight gets a triangle armbar. Second fight is a lot, like, closer and more competitive. Holloway had the edge in the later rounds. Poirier edge in the early rounds, but Poirier was the one who rocked Holloway. Poirier was the one who set Holloway on the back foot, who gave him shaky legs, who rocked him and hurt him so many different times. And there is one big difference here than the other fights, and it's that Holloway is coming in off of that knockout loss to Ilia Topuria. And there's a stat that's going around that everybody who's lost to Ilia Topuria will win their next fight. I think this is where that stat comes to an end. I'm going to be taking Dustin Poirier to beat Max Holloway here. Again, I picked against Poirier the first time, or the second time they fought, because the first time they fought, I was still watching the UFC, but I wasn't as heavily into it the first time they fought as I was the second time that they fought. This one is a tough fight because I think Holloway is more built for 155 at this point. When he went up before, he was still kind of a featherweight. Now he's big. After that Justin Gaethje fight, I mean, he looked really good in the Gaethje fight. But Gaethje and Poirier are two different styles of fighters, you know. I think Poirier is more technical than Justin Gaethje. He'll throw himself into the fire, but he's a little bit more technical and a little bit less likely to get into a brawl. And, I mean, I saw pictures of him. He looks like he's in the best shape of his career. He looks like he's chiseled out of stone. Comparing what he looked like in the Islam fight to what he looked like here, I think it's night and day. And also, you know, everybody's going to shit on Poirier for the Makhachev performance. You know, he got choked out in the 5th round, but, man, he did good. He had good grappling defense, decent takedown defense. He landed that left hand a few different times on Islam Makhachev, and Makhachev was still striking. He was still putting it on him, still backing him up, and I think Holloway definitely has the opportunity to knock out Poirier here. I think either of these fighters can get a knockout here because I think Holloway's going to have more power. He's more built up for the 55-pound weight class, 155 pounds, and he's going to be ready to go more now than he was the last time they competed. I think they're pretty similar to the same fighter. I just think Holloway has more muscle and is more ready for the 155-pound weight class than he was the last time they fought. And I think it's going to make a difference. I do think that Holloway's going to have more pop in his shots. I think his 1-2s are going to land a little bit better. But I just think that Poirier knockout is going to take a little bit too much out of the chin here for Max Holloway. And I just see Poirier knocking him out in the later rounds. The last one went to decision. The first one was a finish. I could see, Holloway melting Poirier in the later rounds. I think Poirier is going to fight the hardest he's ever fought. I think Max Holloway's not coming in here to be nobody's bitch either. But I just see eventually the power in the hands of Dustin Poirier getting the better of Max Holloway. I think that check right hook is going to be there. And I think eventually he's going to hit him with that straight left hand in the later rounds, probably like round 4. I think he's going to hit him with one of those straight left hands, and I think he's going to hurt Holloway. And I just think Poirier is going to put it on him against the fence, just let everything out from his whole career after he rocks him. Right hook, left uppercut, 1-2, rip the body, rip the uppercut. And I think it's going to be a barrage of about 10 or 15 punches against the fence, and the ref's going to jump in, and we are going to have a new BMF champion, and his name is Dustin the Diamond Poirier. I'm going to go with Dustin Poirier to win via a 4th round TKO, a standing TKO against the cage in a Cinderella-esque story send-off for Dustin Poirier's career. I really think that Poirier knockout is going to take a lot out of the durability of Max Holloway. And, we've seen him get rocked before. People forget that when he fought Justin Gaethje, he got dropped. He looked great in the fight. He was dominating the fight, but he got dropped late in the Justin Gaethje fight up against the fence. I think Poirier can put it on him, land a big shot, rock him, and then put it on him against the fence and get a stoppage. So that's what I'm going to go with. Give me the Diamond. Give me El Diamante in his retirement bout to win via a 4th round TKO stoppage over Max Blessed Holloway. All right, that's it for my UFC 318 preview, predictions, and breakdown. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and smash the notification bell for all future uploads. And in the comment section below, leave me your predictions, your lock of the card, your favorite underdog of the card, your favorite round prop of the card. Whatever it is you want to let me know about this upcoming fight card, leave it in the comment section below. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out. Have a good night, everybody.